Where is everyone coming from for today's session? Why don't you put your location in the chat box, and we'd love to hear where you're coming from, what markets you serve. My name is Garrick. I am an agent here in the San Francisco Bay Area. All right, we've got people from Alabama, from Canada, Lexington, Arizona. We have all across the country. Are there any people from UK or Australia or India? There we go, India, right there. I see that. Hong Kong? Anybody from Hong Kong? All right, let's get started. Hi, my name is Garrick. This is a pleasure for me to uh, host and moderate this panel, Diversity, the Key Ingredient to Your Global Success. We're here today to learn why harnessing diversity is crucial to taking your business to the next level. We have a number of star panelists with us this morning. Okay, let's go with, before we get started, this is the month of May. We're celebrating the Asian Heritage Month. And it's okay. And our network, EXP Asian Network, is part of the One EXP initiative. And for those that have not yet been introduced to One EXP, EXP Realty is proud to announce its commitment to diversity and inclusion through this initiative, One EXP. This commitment supports EXP's culture by embracing differences, promoting equality, mutual respect, and providing a space where everyone has a voice and opportunity to succeed. Our commitment to diversity and inclusion is through education by hosting EXP meetings and coverage to ensure diversity and inclusion is representative in all of our marketing materials, press, and events. We have a number of affinity groups, and this segment today is focusing on the Asian segment. So one EXP Asian Network, South Asian Group, and EXP Middle East. Okay, so our lovely panelists today are Christiana Pugh from Washington, D.C. People who know her well say that she is fiercely competitive and has no shame agreeing. She attracts like-minded people to achieve the unthinkable. She speaks both English and Korean. Jay Patel from Glenville, Illinois. He lives and works in India. He is a seasoned veteran of the real estate industry with 22 years of experience in multiple facets, including land development, rehab, brokerage, real estate tech. He is born in India, grew up in the United States, attended University of Illinois, Chicago, and is a managing broker licensed in the state of Illinois with EXP Realty. Jay also founded and is the CEO of a prop tech firm called India MLS, based in Mumbai, India. India MLS is designed as a national MLS, multiple listing service, and serves thousands of real estate agents in India. The database aggregates both residential, commercial property listings throughout the country. Jay is also an avid reader, writer, traveler, yoga, and golf enthusiast. And our third panelist is Dinami Al Anjuri from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She speaks English, Arabic, and Spanish. She is one of the leaders of the EXP Middle East group. She holds a degree in industrial engineering and international business. Her first career gave her executive background in corporate banking for the Gulf Bank of Kuwait. She also was also a director of logistics and distribution for Rich Sea, Kuwait. She also lived on 3 continents, traveled to 24 countries, and EXP has given her a good excuse to increase those numbers. I agree with that. She is the youngest and first Middle Eastern chair for the City of Mequon's Committee, Chamber of Commerce member, and a city ambassador. She specializes in commercial real estate in Wisconsin and partnered up with luxury developers in Tulum, Mexico. All right, let's start out with some trivia. And I want you all to stay till the end to find out the answer. And the question is, how many Asian countries are there? And how many can you name? Let me give you a hint. It's more than 10. Okay, guys. Okay, panelists, we love you all, and we'd like for you to share with us your thoughts on the state of the market, state of the state. How are things going in terms of diversity? And how about in real estate? Jay, let's start with you.
Hi. Thank you, Garrick. It's a pleasure to be here. As far as state of the state, I guess there's two sections that I can actually discuss. One is my state of the state in the U.S., the way I see it, and also residing in Mumbai, India, our state of the state's completely different. First, generally speaking, of course, I think we all can agree that in the U.S., we're in a situation where the inventory levels are very low, and homes are flying off the shelf. I mean, it's easy to get multiple offers. In India, what I'm looking at is completely different. So if you have clients that are in India, or if there's people in the audience that are from India, they know that we're sitting in a completely different market there, where we've got a tremendous amount of inventory and not enough buyers. So it's exactly the opposite, which just kind of further reconfirms that we really need to know, either the people that we're working with, where they're coming from, so we can be more sensitive of what their needs are and what they'll be looking for. So in the States here, it's a completely different market compared to what we have there. And also more specifically, even within the US, it's quite different too, depending on where you go. Now, from a diversity standpoint, I think it's important to look at more micro in terms of whether you're in a big city or a smaller city. The bigger cities tend to have, of course, much greater diversity. I'm from Chicago, and as you can imagine, it's a very diverse city. So, we have much more exposure to different cultures and different people. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, right, Garrick, as far as just the culture side of it, knowing your customer and how to deal with them versus maybe some smaller cities. So I think this forum is actually very good because it'll help educate people on some of the nuances in terms of dealing with whether they're Indian people, Vietnamese people, African American, etc. So I'll pass it off to Christiana from there.
Yeah, Christiana, why is embracing diversity so important in today's market?
Seeing through a different pair of lenses or perspectives, it really helps us to open our eyes and minds to do and think differently, like, gain new knowledge and build bridges for a better way of future for generations to come. Really, the right thing to do is to be patient and be proactive in listening and accepting and, welcoming people and ideas that are different from your own, and recognizing that, their limitations in English proficiency is really in no way reflects their level of intelligence. It just feels good when you know that you're a part of a movement and, change for the better. Gandhi said, be the change you wish, to see in the world, and make an impact, and putting a stop to the cycles of, underrepresented, marginalized, discriminated populations start with just one person in one community and one culture.
Dinami, the next question is for you. How does serving the underrepresented, marginalized, or discriminated populations help with your business?
Well, as we can see how changes around the world are coming about, we can see that uniting serves, the whole purpose of civilization as a whole better than a division. You can only, build towers with a combination of the best people with the best talents. So basically, to answer directly that question, don't know that by reaching out to people of different communities, diverse, religious, age groups, you actually build your sphere. You build a bigger, growth to the possibilities of the people that know you and will remember you once you're doing business. It builds a big change. You start to build trust within communities. You start learning about them, and when you start learning about you, you advertise a local, ethnicity restaurant in the area, and you talk to the owners, and they're going to know that you care about them, that you want to make them known, and that this is an inclusive society. So, as a ethical, moral thing, we should definitely be united, as a globe. But for your business right now, if you are not looking outside of your neighborhood, outside of your sphere, outside of your ethnicity, outside of even, your 2 mile radius, you're going to be lost in this business and anything else in the future, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Being open to connecting with other people definitely can open new opportunities as well. Jay, show me the money. Tell me about global expansion. What does it have to do with growing my business?
It's a great question. Show you the money. I wish I could show you the money, but I'll tell you what has worked for me, guys. First of all, you do have to keep yourself open to all types of clients, right? And business can come from anywhere. If you, let's assume for a moment that you have, my nationality is Indian. If you have an Indian client and you don't know much about them, make sure that they understand that. But before that, if you can, try to do your own background, your own homework to find out more about the Indian culture. Some things that are different, even when you're looking or showing homes, there are some things that are important for Indian culture, such as maybe the way it's facing. They call it Vastu, and it basically means, like you've heard the word Feng Shui before. So it's basically what is harmonious in a home and what they feel would be ideal type of property. Which way should it be facing? The north, the northeast, or versus, they don't want something necessarily facing the south. These are customs. These are cultural trends. And these are things that if you know them, it's easier and they'll be impressed. Your clients will be impressed that, hey, you've taken the time to know some of these things. Another thing I'll point out is that being Indian, it's actually worked to my advantage because within the Indian community, but that doesn't mean that I focus solely on them. Almost 50% of my business came from Indian clients when I was actively practicing real estate here in the US. Today, as you know, and you mentioned earlier that I'm actually based in Mumbai, India. And I'm there because we're doing something else on the real estate side, which is building a prop tech firm, introducing the MLS. And for me, show me the money refers more to, from a tech perspective, is building a platform that's going to make brokers much more efficient and more successful at being able to do their jobs. We're extremely spoiled, folks. What we have in the US, they don't have in 95% of the countries around the world. They don't have an MLS system. Most countries don't have an association. There's very few countries that have proper, title insurance, or nobody has an MLS for that matter. No exclusive listings. That's something you'll find out when you have clients coming from abroad. The concept of an exclusive listing is foreign to them. They typically have open listings, or where they have many, many agents that they hire. And the idea is, look, I'll hire 10 people. Whoever sells it first, great. The more the merrier, as far as they want the larger sales force. Whereas here in the States, we have exclusive listings. We give our listing to one person because we have an MLS system, we have technology, we have structure. Those things don't exist. So it's important to know what's out there outside of our domestic, our national boundaries, is that we just don't have these luxuries that we have here in the US. And so for me, I would tell you two things. One, as an agent in America, number one, understand your market. Don't be shy about asking questions. People actually love that. I mean, if somebody came to me and was curious about my culture and asked me, hey, why do you do this, or how does it happen? Depends on the tone and how you ask. If you ask it in a, I'm sure you guys can understand, if you ask it in a way where it comes off negative, of course, that may rub somebody the wrong way. But if you ask it in a truly inquisitive nature where you want to learn about it, people are happy to share. And that also help you build like a bond with that client, and that really goes a long way. Another thing I'll tell you is when you do get a client in a specific nationality or a particular background, you'd be amazed as to how many other clients you can get from that same group. So for example, within the Indian culture, if you happen to service one Indian client very well, there's a good chance he's going to refer you to many other people within his circle. So I definitely encourage you to look at it from that perspective as well. I could talk about this forever, Garrick, but I'm going to turn it over back to you.
That's great news. I completely concur with you. Half of my clients have been Indian descent as well. So in order to understand their culture, I actually went on a trade mission to India, visited 3 cities, learned about their food and culture, and understand more about their daily life And that was kind of important to my business and connecting to my clients as well. Dinami, I see that you're also doing a lot of international client transactions. Can you tell me about how you work with your clients?
Hear me right? Just checking.
Yeah, I hear you. You're good.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, when I started in real estate in general, I have lived, as you said, in a few different continents. So I immediately had to let, all of my friends and family back in the different countries know that this was a good market, especially once the prices started rising in the past 2 years. That was exciting. I was with a different brokerage at the time. But once I came onto EXP and noticed, wow, we can referrals with new countries. My friends have friends in different countries. I've been working in Tulum. Now I have people, from Dubai.
Okay, Dinami, you got a voice over there? All right, we'll come back. We'll come back with Dinami in a minute. Okay, let's head on over to Christiana. I had the pleasure of meeting her. She is an attraction powerhouse. She comes to EXP to attract because this is one part of our business here. Tell us about how you're attracting the new agents to EXP with our platform.
Okay, I'm sorry. I found my microphone. Okay, so, I will preface that with a question to our audience, right? Our attendees. When was the last time you felt like you were heard, like truly heard? Like, when you're not the only, I want you to really understand that when you're doing an agent attraction, that, you are not the only one who has a story, and those people that have the story are really eager to tell you that story. They just haven't been asked yet, right? And when they are speaking, they are inviting you into their world. And it's important for you to ask the question and to be able to say, well, I am really interested in what you have to say. I am interested in what your story is, because really, for us as a person who is attracting the other person into our company, we really need to get to know how their business is going and making sure that we are hitting on all of their pain points. So when you're asking questions, it should be a question that they are profoundly interested in talking about. And that could be their business, it could be their family, it could be their brokerage. And whatever it is that they choose to talk about, that should be the subject matter that you should hold interest in, right? People will do business with people they know, like, and trust. And it has to happen in that order. So first, you need to get to know them, and they need to get to know you. And once they get to know you, they're going to make a decision whether they're going to like you or not. Once they make a decision that they like you, then they're going to start trusting you to do that business and to possibly even hear about what you have to say about the brokerage and EXP. It isn't about selling. It isn't about, making somebody come to a brokerage, but it is about our movement, right? And the movement is that we're trying to make the best possible effort to make a difference in someone's life. When you take yourself out of the equation of the conversation, that's when the magic happens. So don't worry about what you sound like. Don't worry about what you look like, but really focus in on the conversation at hand with that person, and make sure that your number one and foremost objective in all of this is that they feel like they've been heard. It's not about how much you know, but it's about how you make other people feel at the end of the day.
Garrick, would you mind if I added something to that as well, relating to just agent attraction, especially if we're looking at from a global standpoint?
Absolutely, Jay.
So one of the things that I found, and with respect to, let's take India specifically, and I've also seen this in other countries as well. I think Christiana brought up a very good point. You've got to ask questions, right? So that goes without saying. You got to ask questions to find out about the people. But something else you need to know is also the kind of structure that they understand. And what I mean by that is in a place like India, 90% of all the agents are independents. So now why is that important? When you're an independent agent, that basically means you don't have a split. And if you don't have a split, you're used to taking home 100%. So for someone like that, we have to be ready to explain to them the benefit of giving up. In India right now, it's a 75-25. I know in the US here, we have an 80-20 split. Well, new agents that sign up in India are coming out on a 75-25. That's a tough pill for an agent to swallow, where you tell him that he's going to have to give up 25% of his earnings to come on board with EXP. So you should be ready and know what your USPs are, what EXP's USPs are. What are we going to do for them? How are we going to improve their business? The fact that they're giving up 25% is actually small compared to what they're going to gain on a larger scale. And if you can illustrate that for them, that is going to go a long way for you to be able to actually continue that conversation. Otherwise, you're going to see that people just kind of close out and they move on. Because that is, I found for me in bringing people on, is understanding where they're coming from. So if they're coming from a firm such as, like we have here in the States, other companies like a Remax or Coldwell Banker, it's very easy to speak to them. But many of these countries that we're going into don't necessarily have that. And if they do, they don't have the same penetration that they have here in the US, the franchise model. So a lot of these countries, the brokers are basically mom and pop operations, 1-2 man offices. Some might even be 10, 15 man offices, very well organized, but they don't have a split unless they're working for that particular company. But you have to be ready for a 100% earning and the question about why would I want to split that. So that's just one example. Another thing you want to be aware of in these other markets is the actual commissions that come in or that are being charged. Believe it or not, in the US, when we charge our client today, we're only charging, for example, 5% if it's a sale client, or 6% I'm going to charge my seller. And then, of course, I'll put my cooperative compensation into the MLS. In these other countries, that's not it. First of all, in those countries, 90% of the world, the buyer pays the buyer's agent and the seller pays the seller's agent. So that's something you have to be aware of. There is very little of this cooperative compensation. Second is that even despite this the 5% that we pay here, that would be it. In India, that's not it. Despite the 5%, you've got to pay an additional what they call GST. That's an 18% tax. So these are things that you should be aware of, and because they're going to ask about this, and what's your rebuttal going to be? Because that at the end of the day has to show that EXP, even despite those issues, is still a better solution. I came and I joined EXP, I officially joined EXP about 2.5 months ago, and we've already started bringing some people on and signing them up in India. I want to present it to my brokers who are my clients, part of my MLS system there. We have over 10,000 people that were our clients, so that gives us a nice audience, target audience to be able to present EXP to. But these are some of the questions that were presented to me, and I just wanted to make sure you're aware. So when you go to war, I equate it that way. Like when you go to battle, you want to go to battle with all your artillery. Make sure you have all your ammunition. And ammunition basically means know what you want to say and what your strong rebuttals would be. Then the question gets presented, and how would you position EXP in a situation where you're competing with somebody who's potentially an independent. I don't want to speak too much about it, but if anybody has specific questions, I'm happy to discuss it privately.
Jay, those were very important tips. I didn't even know that. And I think I need to do some research to figure that out too. And I'm sure each of the other countries have their own nuances that we got to get to know. Dinami, you want to go finish up the story that you had?
Yeah, definitely. So I started seeing that market, especially specifically in the Midwest, which is very the underdog in the United States, which is what I've been calling it. Just made sense of the price points that I can push it to people in different countries. I actually had 2 people come in this year from Saudi Arabia looking at condos. And I do a lot of my marketing on social media, specifically Instagram. And I know we haven't moved into a lot of countries yet, But there are still some where I have, especially a lot of my female friends, hey, how do I get into this? How do I become a realtor? I said, I'm sorry, we're not in your country yet because, we can't disclose a lot of stuff, obviously, until it's the right time. But even my downline for significantly changed through EXP. We have a really, really great model. And the great thing is that they don't have to start it alone. They don't have to find all of these systems and charts and CRMs, which a lot of people would probably be blown away thinking what a CRM was in general. So this has been really exciting. And I'm just really glad in the kind of opportunities that we are going to provide to, specifically females in many of the different Eastern countries that we're in.
Jay, there was a question in the chat box about women in real estate business in India. Can you just share a little bit of information about that?
Yeah, I did see that. Thank you, Garrick. I think Kim had asked that question. Kim, that's a great point, great question to ask, because unlike the U.S. market, where I'd say more than 50, probably 60% of agents are female, in India, it's not even the opposite. It's completely the other way around, meaning that 90% of, more than 95% of all agents are men. It is a male-dominated industry, but the good news is that slowly more and more women are coming in. And there are actually some associations that have been working together. We've worked with a few women. Even within our company, we were going to be establishing an initiative to help bring women into the industry, both with education and then equip them with the technology. So once they have the tools, you have the education, you have the technology tools, you can effectively work and be competitive in what was previously a male-dominated industry. And besides that, I just think women, Garrick, make better agents than men in general. They've got a great eye for interiors, and even in India, believe it or not, if you look at the stories that come out, and I forgive me, I keep talking more about India because that's where I'm based right now. But what I've been seeing is that the majority of the home buying decisions are actually made by women, the wives versus the husbands. And it's great because that was not always the case. If you went back maybe, 20, 30 years ago, that was not the case. Most of these kind of decisions were all made by men. So it's a nice transition we're seeing. We have to be aware of that so that we can also support that. And we're trying to do our part in a small way in terms of educating the potential agents that come in, and then also, as I said, giving them the tools that they need to succeed. I believe that's the same case with many countries too, by the way. It's not just isolated to India, Garrick. You'll find, I think Dinami can probably speak more about that with respect to the Middle East. You're going to see a very similar situation in even parts of Southeast Asia, I believe is the same case too. Closest probably to the U.S. might be Europe, but even there, I don't have the facts in terms of exact statistics. But there are more women agents in Europe compared to, I'm saying strictly speaking, percentage-wise, compared to male agents.
I think that brings a good balance, because buying houses or properties is not just the specs, but also there's a emotional quality to it and aesthetic qualities to it as well. It is a home after all. It's not just a box. The next topic we're going to talk about are languages. How important are languages in the business? From my personal experience, I grew up speaking English and Cantonese at home, and spoke it mostly with my parents. And as I grew up through college, I actually spoke less and less over time. But I did have a draw to start reconnecting with my native language. And turns out my first transaction was in Cantonese. So that was a little bit of a challenge. It was mixed in with some English. Can you guys share about your experiences? How important is language in your business? Christiana, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I came here when I was 8 years old. I've been here for about 40 years now, so I just gave away my age. But I can tell you that what my parents really wanted was for me to continue on speaking fluent Korean as well as English. And what I found as I lived all those years and coming here, when, like maybe second, third grade, is that, we are taught, it's not like our innate ability to be able to say, well, this one person is very odd compared to the other person. But like, it's for me, my experience was that being able to speak Korean as well as English has made a huge impact in the way I do my business, as well as I became a parent, and having to see them grow into a culture where we are all different and are able to share all of this. Now, being able to speak fluent Korean has definitely its positives, where I am also able to serve the Korean community the best way I know how, as well as the English-speaking community. Opposite to what Garrick has experienced, my experience was is that most of my clients that I served were English-speaking, clients, and it wasn't until maybe 5 to 7 years down the road that I came across a true Korean-speaking, client, and that experience was out of this world. And to what Dinami had said before, it's once you get into that space and the community, whether you are Korean or not, there's a sense of loyalty and loyalty to to that agent. So keep serving those diverse communities out there, and do the best you possibly can, and have the patience to be able to serve those communities as well. Back to you.
Jay, Dinami?
Yeah. So, growing up, I actually noticed I've always had a passion for languages, and since we've traveled so much and we've spoken to so many different types of people, I've always been able to understand people with various accents, even the accents that of languages that I don't speak myself. But being new in the Midwest, it was much more difficult to find people who spoke Arabic here immediately. I wasn't sure where the pockets were, but the Hispanic community was very, dominant and prominent here in Milwaukee. So they actually, most of all of my founding deals with EXP have all been with Spanish-speaking clients. Being able to in contracts and talk about areas and giving them financial education has been really, really rewarding. I also, again, I love specifically to deal with people from different countries. That's kind of my niche. Because when I was at my different brokerage, it was very Anglo-Saxon predominant suburbs. And you just don't have a real flavor for life all the time if you're only dealing with, one or two nationalities. Here I get to deal with, at least 5 different nationalities per week. And I get to learn from them, they get to learn from me, and little by little, I'm just spreading my cultural web.
Garrick, so my perspective on languages, first of all, a little background. I speak 2 fluent languages, English, and my other Indian tongue is called Gujarati. But I also speak a little bit of Hindi. When I first moved to India to start this project, I did not speak any Hindi, and that is a national language, but that doesn't really prohibit us. In fact, I'll tell you something else. India probably has more languages. It's like you have so many different languages based on every state. The country can be multiple countries. That's how diverse it is there, depending upon which region you're coming from, the south, the east, west, north, etc. I'm going to just do a little pivot, though. I think language is important. I think it's great to develop an affinity with a particular group that you're working with, especially if they find that you speak their language. But I'll tell you what I feel still what's more important, because tomorrow it's not like we're going to go out and suddenly learn a new language. But what is important is understanding the culture. When you know the culture of the people you're working with, that will speak volumes, because no one expects necessarily for you to know their language. But if they see that you're taking the time and the interest in them and their culture, that will go a long way. And I saw earlier someone had posted when I was just speaking in general about Indian clients, someone had mentioned, no electric for stoves, and that's absolutely true, guys. I mean, if you don't know Indian clients love gas stoves. They're not a big fan of electric stoves. These are these are things you never think about. Which way the home is facing. That's important to them. There's so many other little things that as you get to know this particular culture, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about home buying. It can just be about them, because sometimes it's a great icebreaker when you open up and you meet someone and they find out that you know of them, or you've read something about it, or you've tried their food or the cooking. That, I feel, is excellent in terms of breaking the ice, building a relationship, getting referrals. All that goes a long way. It all starts with really you being you, in terms of showing that you really care and that you want to get to know that person. That's going to go a lot further than anything else. Because as much as I would love to learn the languages, it was tough for me. I spent 6 years now. I've been there in India since 2015, and I'm now I would say maybe 50% fluent in Hindi after 6 years, and it takes a long time. So I can imagine if I have a client tomorrow from Japan, there's no way I'm going to learn Japanese, or somebody from China Mandarin, but I can learn their culture. I can greet them the correct way, as opposed to something that they might find offensive. So it's really important, I think, from our perspective, as we're here now, we're looking at expanding internationally on a global level, that we understand the cultures of the people that we're going to be working with.
Okay, this is awesome. We've got 5 more minutes. I have a 2-minute closing, but I also want to give the panelists on stage 1 additional minute if you have any comments you wanted to go and contribute. We're about to wrap up soon, so any final words before I go into the closing?
I will say that look at everybody with respect. Everybody could be a potential friend and a client. It's best to learn about each other, because again, if we're not constantly learning, we're setting ourselves back within our business, within our progression as a civilization. So I think that right now, the model that EXP has provided us apart from the rest of the world, even other companies. So I think it's a great chance for us to reflect on how we've been dealing with people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different genders, in different areas of the world. And we're going to deal from somebody from here to Morocco. Let's find out how to do it and be the example of how to lead in this business.
Yes, and I want to also segue and maybe write the coattail of Jay, what Jay was saying is that, if you want to impress anyone, learn their culture. It's another form of giving respect to that person, and just letting them know that you have taken the time and have taken the effort to not only get to know them as a person, but everyone else that is behind and side and all around them.
I will ditto what both ladies have said, Christiana and Dinami. You guys are spot on. I will also say in closing, guys, for the agents that are here from the U.S., guys, we're extremely blessed. We don't sometimes realize what we have here in terms of structure, tech, systems, education. There's a registration and regulation and all these other things that, we take it for granted. We are extremely lucky for what we have, because the other countries, they don't have that. So always be sensitive when you do have new clients coming in from other markets, or if you yourself are looking to expand your business from an agent attraction standpoint, keep in mind that what we have known is not the norm outside. So you'll have to take some time to really educate yourself on what is the norm, whether it's, you're looking at France or Portugal, or you're looking at South Africa or India or any one of the other countries, even South America. Now we've got Brazil. It's just completely different in all these different countries. So keep an open mind. I absolutely get to know the culture. Ask questions without asking questions. Don't assume you know it, because asking questions actually helps build relationships. So with that, I'll say good luck to all of you. Hopefully we'll continue to grow this company even bigger than it is now.
At Home with Diversity. It's an NAR class. Oh my goodness, my microphone quality is not that great. Okay, I'm back. Okay, At Home with Diversity. That is a good start to learn how to work with people within your own community here domestically. If you're also starting to see working with international clients, taking the class Certified International Property Specialist as a designation is also another good start. I think that I've been certified, and it gives a good ground for asking the right questions, because I think many people don't know what the questions are to ask. And when you don't know what to ask, you're just kind of stuck. And I think CIPS is a good start to do that. And then the cliff notes to understanding different cultures is kiss, bow, or shake hands. Take a look at that book. That is it's a primer. It covers about 60 different countries. It gives you the key phrases that you need to know when you're talking to somebody in that country. You get to learn if it's high context or low context, or you're allowed to show up late, and if you show up early, is that considered an insult? Amazing things. I mean, if I receive a business card, do I put it in my back pocket or do I put it in my shirt pocket? All kind of important things and subtle things that if you're not aware of, that they can cause problems, because it's not nonverbal. Join our affinity groups, EXP Asian Network, EXP Middle East, and South Asian groups. And it's not limited to Asians. We're here to share with each other our knowledge, our referrals, understanding each other. Exciting things also happening in the expansion front. EXP India has already opened 2020 Q4. Hong Kong just opened in Q2, and EXP Japan will be opening in Q3 of this year. And to wrap it up, the answer to our trivia question, how many Asian countries are there? In the chat box, how many do we have? 48 countries. So we 48 Asian countries. So, I mean, not all of us look the same. Just because you know how to do business with a Chinese person does not mean you know how to do business with a Japanese person or someone from Israel to China, Russia to India. It's a very large geography. Get to know each one of us. We're very different. Ask the questions. Meet us in EXP Workplace. Thank you for joining our session. This has been a delightful opportunity. Thank you all.